Howdy and hello. This should be a decently detailed guide on how to slay the Illuminate in various forms and fashions for their sub-factions, take out their spawners, and even destroy various objectives. We'll begin with the Crusher. This is the newest Illuminate, a part of the Vote Snatcher sub-faction, and this beefy broad feller walks around dragging a beating mallet. When he initiates combat stance, you'll hear a Taco Bell sound in the distance. That's why we call him the Doritos Locos Taco Bell Warrior. If he hits you with this mallet, you're going to get one shot in virtually all the armors that the Helldivers arsenal currently possesses. You can avoid this by simply running to the left, running to the right whenever it slams, or even running towards it. Oddly enough, Crusher has a diverse moveset. The lunging slam, where it moves forward pretty rapidly and then initiates its overhead attack that catches many players off guard. If it's confused by gas or fire, it tends to do a triple swipe left and right. If you're on the side, it can stomp you. The stomp hitbox isn't massive, but if it hits you, it can hit for big damage, or low damage is kind of intermittent in how impactful it wants to be. And it can also swipe to the side in a decently wide arc, which can catch you off guard if you're playing too close to it. The Crusher has a couple weaknesses, but only one true weak spot, which lies beneath his helmet. Remove that using Heavy Pin. Rugged and Safe Mode Spear Gun both one-shot it. AMR Bolt Pistol two-shot it. Once the helmet's gone, it'll stagger Crusher, and it'll show you a man-child baby face that is free for the pickings to get one-tapped by AMR, Bolt Pistol, Spear Gun. For some reason, Marksman Rifles can't one-shot it. That I, for instance, ain't got the juice. It'll be two shots from most weapons that deal above 150 damage. And Trident is also a pretty good option here. Variable volley as well. Now, this is a great thing to go for if you're not getting ran down by 10+ Crushers and the entire other Calamari fleet. When precision isn't an option, throw the entire kitchen sink if it's explosive, does fire damage, or just has disgusting DPS. For example, C4, Thermites, Giganate, Ultimatum can all one-shot Crushers. Wasp 3-shots Crushers, which is actually a pretty good option if you're far away. Get too close, and they can kind of just ignore the rounds. It doesn't target them very good. Airburst Rocket Launcher is one of the best weapons to kill multiple Crushers if they're all in the similar area. That thing shreds. Now, Cremator is going to be more of a consistent weapon in the sense that you can actually run away and not have to sit there and reload it. It just has constant fuel. It'll kill a Crusher in around 40 fuel usage, while also taking out multiple if they're stacked up and killing other enemies near it. Those are your best options. And you may be saying, what about the machine guns, Bullet Storm and whatnot? You can kill them in around 100 bullets on the Bullet Storm, fries are done. But it takes a lot of time, all things considered. Primary weapons that kill Crushers quickly will be the Plas Punisher that takes you 8 rounds, the Purifier taking 6 max charge shots, Accelerator Rifle that takes 5 max charge shots, and Scorcher, a full magazine. Those are all explosive, and that's kind of the trend going on here. If you want to use a Torture, it'll be 80 fuel. The Variable takes 2 total shots, which is a bunch of ammunition, and that's pretty much where the list ends. Now, explosives can be aimed towards the Jondals, ideally to hit the pelvis and the legs at the same time. And the rest of weapons, I'd go for the legs in most cases. Little side note, dealing enough damage to a leg will cause the Crusher to slow down pretty drastically. Crusher regenerates 30 health per second, seen as the blue effect anytime you shoot it with ballistic weapons or guns on its body. Now, the head doesn't seem to have the same effect. You can shoot it with a weapon, wait a bit, and it doesn't change the breakpoints. This isn't that big a deal. And for reference, Stalkers get 50 health per second while invisible. This video is sponsored by nobody, but consider going to outwestseams.com to support my brother's ethical sweatshop. He makes his hats in his garage or he embroiders them and does a whole bunch of stuff. Customs things, makes my merch and his own. Anyway, on with the video. Wretch are the Vote Snatcher's deformed version of a hunter, has aggressive movement and a leap attack that seems to have a longer cooldown than regular hunters do for bugs. But the difference is you cannot interrupt it with a melee attack or various other weapons that can interrupt hunters, and the only way to stop it is either kill it in the air or to take off its head while it's jumping before it hits you. Because if it carries through with the jump attack, it's just swipe at the end, and if it gets real close, it does a double attack combo that deals pretty hefty damage. In fact, if you have multiple wretch near you, do not disrespect them. If 2 of them cast the double swipe, you're probably going to die with Vitality Booster and Heavy Armor. You can use movement to avoid the leap attack. Laying down can work, although sometimes it'll just hit you regardless, but a more consistent way I've found, at least in the short term, is to slide to the left of a leaping wretch. Whichever blade arm is using to swing at you, go that direction. Its left arm, go left. Its right arm, go right. Gives you a greater chance of avoiding the damage. They also don't jump on high ground. That often, at least. So you can play around them in ways you can't play around hunters, which will probably change in the future. Killing them is pretty simple. The head's the weak spot you want to go for. Typically, you can use ballistic weapons to shoot them anywhere. The blades are medium pin, but realistically, you're not going to be able to stop yourself from shooting that or target it for the most part. It's just kind of a thing that exists. And one of the best bets against them is fire damage. Scythe, dagger, laser cannon, hit them with a single spritz, and they typically die to the dot, which is kind of nuts. But gas can kill them. They just have a decent bit of HP for what they are. They're pretty much twice as tanky as Voteless as far as I can tell. If you remove its noggin, it'll sit there swinging rapidly in one direction. It doesn't target you, it just will swing like a dent for a very long period of time. I believe going the same direction it was already going in before it was headless. Wretch will hard focus sentries even if they can't reach them, which means you can essentially hard lock them from doing anything aside from pitter-pattering left and right. Also, you can melee them, just not while they're jumping, so use that to interrupt their swings, which you can actually hit them before they hit you, even after they cast first. Warp Gateway. It spawns enemies in the same way a bug nest would, but in this case only when the portal opens. A little center circle, and you can destroy it the same way you would a bug nest. Throw in any grenade that has demo force 20 or higher, and the Warp Gateway gets destroyed. They function very similar to the bot fabricators in that sense, because the portal is the duct in this case. We can also toss a dynamite on the outside and blow it up because it has demo force 40 or higher. So a lot of things that break bot fabricators will also destroy the warp gateways. Giganades, dynamite, C4, all blow it up instantly. Toss in a stratagem at the lip bottom area. Typically it won't bounce, sometimes it does. So that's a last resort sort of strategy. Don't toss stratagems into the portal. They'll get sent to a different dimension from the looks of it. Harvester is a towering tripod that acts as a mobile sentry with a beam dealing 1400 to 1800 damage per second and also lights things on fire. But that damage is so powerful, you tend to die before the fire has any chance to do anything at all. It does massive damage to vehicles and can shred divers from pretty large distances. Get too close, however, it'll change things up and then unleash an arc attack that also can one-shot players unless they have the appropriate armor, in this case, arc resistance. It has a protective bubble in the form of a giant blue sphere you can destroy using light pin weapons, and once broken, you can then break its horn with medium pin. Breaking a single horn, top or bottom, does not matter, will destroy the shield forever on harvesters. Anywho, here are the weak spots. The eyeball is light penetration, I'll explain that later. The orange bits are what folks normally go for, at least on the joints, because it's easy to hit, you can see it from distance, it doesn't move anywhere near as much as the other weaker locations. Now, blue is where you can attack if you're using a railgun to one-shot. Obviously, the feet are a way bigger spot than the other blue locations. So if you want, you can do that with a max charge shot. Purple on the front eyeball. Recoilless rifle is your best bet in this location. And the side panels are also heavy pin. You break them with a lot of damage, and then it reveals a light penetration internal weak spot. The blue eyeball serves two purposes. One is an amazing weak spot, allowing you to kill it using light pin weapons. The variable can one-shot, or I guess 49 shot, in total mode, if you land them all correctly. If you don't kill it in one shot, you will instead break the lens, and now harvesters deal more damage, and their beam is less controlled. So you can't dodge it as consistently. You can't just simply lay down and avoid the beam swipe. That thing gets to be dangerous. He turns into Thanos, essentially. When the blue eye breaks, light pin weapons can't damage this location that well, but you can still use things like the dagger and scythe and apply the fire dot. And fire damage wreaks havoc on harvesters. They have an increased multiplier to that damage source in general. When attacking from the back, bottom or side, you'll see these wiring compartments that are completely unarmored. I don't know if they're significant in terms of killing it, because I used the variable in total mode, broke one compartment, it lived, broke the other compartment, it still lived. So do with the information what you will. Typically, folks go for the joint with mini weapons. Commando one-shots it there, AMR's 4-tap, the list goes on. But if you want, you can do some more shenanigans in the wake of combining the pocket rocket, as a guided shot to the eyeball-ish, and then follow up with hyena or other weapons to the actual eye itself. I'm a big fan of this. It leads to a pretty fast time to kill. The dagger would also work in this way. Baton Overseers have a plasma spear that fire plasma bolts, dealing decent damage but have a low fire rate. It prefers instead to close the distance after sprinting after you to then beat the brakes off you. No body cam intact, that thing gets turned off. I call him Officer Earl, but these stories end differently, because in this case, it's clouded with a chance of brain damage. And let me tell you, it gets brutal, because the melee swing itself can be cast so fast after it first hits you and ragdolls you that you can't get up, you can't stim, you just have to hold the damage. Shortly after firing at or near them, they'll trigger a shield that blocks 1500 damage, the same as a harvester shield, which I find quite hilarious actually. Everything but their noggin is covered in full ablative armor, which transfers some damage to main. For example, they can survive an E17 shot, but recoilless rifle will kill them. All the ablative armor can be stripped off using light pin weapons, and it takes pretty low damage. The limbs are 100, chest is 150, and the crotch is 200. Once the armor's gone, you then have the black tarry flesh. Once it's semi-naked, go for the chest. It has the best transfer to main HP and is the biggest target. Makes the most sense. If it's shielding itself and you have a ballistic gun, you can go for the legs if you feel like it, or just wait for the shield to go down and then proceed to shoot the chest. Limbs, being the arms in this case, aren't really wise. And if you have medium pin or higher, you can go for headshots. It's ideal if you're using a very high damaging weapon that can just simply one-shot. Most, if not all, explosive weapons can ignore their shield and still destroy them very quickly. Plasma Purifier is 2 charged shots, for example. Overseer ablative armor has increased stagger resistance. Remove it, hit the flesh, and then you can knock them back with certain weapons. This includes melee, but the latter is a last resort due to how inconsistent it can be. Crescent Overseer has been studying the movie 300 to rain down plasma bolts the same way they did arrows. They'll sit there and bombard people from a pretty good distance with a lot of fire. You'll think there'd be multiple Crescent Overseers. It's just one guy. They've got a pretty fast fire rate with that firing mode. Their other mode is to sit there stanced up, both legs planted, and they'll use their plasma bazooka like an RPG and charge one shot to fire at players, dealing, I believe, a bit more damage than the Officer Earl Overseer. And if you get too close, it'll hit you with a young, swift fist, the Falcon Punch. That's the moveset, and aside from that, it has exactly the same values for armor and ablative armor as the ground Overseer. They do have a massive backpack, but that is entirely intangible. It's simply there for show. Elevated or flying Overseers have a jetpack they use to hover to the heavens as they drift your shots with dastardly precision, and sometimes they fly to the skybox. These folks are equipped with a plasma storm rifle that fires a short volley or a medium volley. Used to be a long one, that got removed. They have a grenade toss, and if you sit on the grenade or have it beneath your feet as it explodes, it does massive damage and kills you in most armors, so don't do that. You can go for a toss back, but be warned, we toss back grenades like Girl Scouts who are not cracked on Thin Mints. Anywho, they're covered in full ablative armor. Typically, you want to go for chest shots, but in this case, Flying Overseers do have a light armor head. You can also go for the jetpack. That's going to be way better from the back, since the front angle gives you next to no real estate to actually hit it. Stingray, once upon a time known as the Interloper, is the illuminate's version of a gunship, except it's not tied to a modifier. Instead, it spawns on level 8 difficulty or higher for solo play, and for groups, I believe it's level 8 or 7 difficulty or higher, and you also get more Stingrays to shoot down. These fellers will roam the skies, and they can spot helldivers from any distance. If you're laying down in the most stealthy armor the game has to offer, it doesn't matter. These fellers are vigilant. They know you exist. But you'll see a blue trail in the sky, and also hear sound effects as they're doing their passes. When they go for their attack, they'll lower their height and go for a hovering barrage of sorts, using their plasma disruptor gun pods. This does a bunch of damage, but it gives you a telegraph showing where it's going to actually strike. In a group setting, this telegraph can be a bit misleading since it can go for longer than intended. And in solo play, the same can happen if you're trying to outrun it. Your best course of action to survive is to simply walk to the side or just kill it. That works too. But if you want to survive, you can also bring explosive resist armor. And laying down, it still took about half my HP. You can use the Stingray's damage against its own calamari compadres, killing voteless, taking out grounded dropships, and I believe damaging or killing flesh mobs if they're already somewhat weak. The things it kills typically get vaporized. That goes for helldivers and voteless for sure. Now to kill these fellers, use a medium pin weapon that deals decent damage and they will die in one single pass if you land your shots. To kill them a bit faster with more precise weapons, aim for the blue light. That's their engine bay, and it's a weak spot. In most examples, it is a cosmetic weak spot, but the railgun can actually one-shot to the engine bay with around 80 to 90% charge. Your best bet with most medium pin plus guns is getting underneath it to the side after avoiding the strafe and aiming up and shooting into it. Gives you a much bigger target and you land a lot more shots to take it down. If you're using a laser cannon, however, that can target it from 1,000 meters during its actual flyby, which most guns, you ain't hitting those shots. Unless you're cracked. Now, if you're using a lock-on weapon, wait for it to actually do the hover attack at the start and fire 2 wasp shots, a single spear shot, a single pocket rocket round, or rocket, and it takes it down. And if you want to get creative, you can use ultimatum. You can use throwing knives. You can use a bunch of stuff. It depends on how ignorant you want to get. After you've taken down a stingray, its body is still a weapon. It'll crash and then proceed to explode. That explosion does massive damage. I think it kills you in any armor the game has to offer currently. Fleshmob, I call him meatbob, is a beefy boy. The reason the Wendy's 444 ever gained popularity is an amalgamation of a bunch of voteless conjoined into one monstrous being that has some movement. It can charge after players at around 25 meters. The charge doesn't do a ton of damage most of the time. It would maybe just ragdoll you, and it's pretty easy to avoid. But once it's close, it has one of 2 attacks. The easy one to not die to is a single swipe, no big deal. The other one is the meat blender. Once it has you in its freaking grips, you can dive away and die mid-dive because it's swinging pretty fast, dealing a pretty hefty chunk of damage. Meatbob has a gargantuan grip of HP and it spawns in pretty large numbers while possessing some perplexing weak spots. You get the meat chunks from the front, top, and middle. From the back, it is top and bottom. These, when broken, will kill Fleshmob, I believe, instantaneously, but you're better off if you're using ballistic weapons, going for the biggest meat chunk on the front and hammering away until it perishes. I tested with the bullet storm and urchin grenade, stunning it, going for all the meat chunks, which poses its own problem, but it didn't save me many bullets, and it just wasted more time and utility, because my grenade slot was used on an urchin grenade. I was better off just going for the big meat chunk and not caring too much. And if you're using explosive weapons, aim center mass, fire away, because it doesn't have too much explosive resistance, and those things kill it very quickly. Nade launchers 4 hits, wasp 4, giga nade, thermites, 1 toss, call it a day. They can also combo things like the pocket rocket. 1 shot of that, and then go into your ballistic weapon. It'll die fairly fast, especially if it's a hyena for folks that use that. Variable is a slept-on option that can potentially one-shot flesh mobs, but typically it'll be so weak you can follow up with very low damage and take it out. In this case, Dagger, not even setting on fire, killed it. As of the recording of this video, going for the legs is not a good idea. It takes more time to kill it, and you can't actually hinder its movement speed. You can't stop it. That's not how that works. If you break the arms, it can't swap at you, but it will still just charge and remain a nuisance. Your best bet is the meat chunks. An important note to feather into your scrolls, meatbobs will go crazy and start swinging wildly if you break a meat chunk, even when they're stunned. This is pretty unideal if you're using the ballistic shield and a spear, for instance, breaking meat chunks. So in that situation, you're better off going for the legs. Although this is Doe's editor, correction, breaking any piece on the meatbob will cause it to go into a frenzy. I would advise against driving too slow for too long near a meatbob in the FRV. He can flip the whip, treat it like a kid's table at a family get-together. Those little fold-out ones that are Mickey Mouse themed most of the time. That's getting sent into the air. And typically it lands on top of itself, which is not great. And your best bet is to either use explosive weapons to unflip it or have the meatbob help you out, give you another lift off, and this time you land on your tires. Watcher. I call it the snitchbot 9000. A drone that roams around with a blue light looking for anything out of the ordinary. If it sees or hears something, it'll turn purple and investigate. If it sees a driver directly-ish, it'll call reinforcements, but it only does that once it actually shoots the flares in the sky. So it gives you a second and a half to kill it before that happens. If you don't, now you have more dudes to deal with. It's pretty fast to kill though. It has around 600 HP and you can just shoot it in the lens area and take it out that way. It has weak spots, not really actually. It has different areas that you can break off, but you really don't want to go for the bottom or top fin because that just leads to a longer time to kill for no good reason. So aim center mass and kill it that way. Voteless are the result of illuminate experiments that turn super citizens into zombies, gray flesh, blue-eyed, and tentacle-having fellas that resemble a younger form of Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, with 3 different types: light, medium, heavy. As you increase that rating, they just get more HP for most of their body parts. Not to a meaningful degree, but some weapons won't be hitting them to the chest and making them bleed out like they should. So the one thing that stays the same across all variants is the legs and the crotch. That requires 80 damage, which most guns can get to that point, hit that spot, and they just turn legless. They then crawl around, having a little handicap placard, and they die after a short duration of time. They can still hit you, though, while crawling, but they're much slower. Speaking of speed, Sometimes they're faster than others, and I don't believe it has anything to do with the actual tiers for them, light, medium, heavy. I think it's just more so the desire to want to go fast. Fire from grenades, lasers, flamethrowers is extremely effective on them, and the same goes for the gas grenade, or gas stratagems. These take out voteless in a single application pretty much every single time, which is quite nice. The illuminate have their own mechs on the appropriators. I call them Jondeliers. You have the melee-focused one that charges after players, swipes at them, and tries to slam them with his fists. To avoid the charge, simply find the gap between the legs and lay down. It is way safer doing this on flat ground. Hills are the death of you. But here are the weak spots for vericator. It'll be facing you pretty much the entire time you're actually attacking one, and because of that, the pallet is the best thing to go for. It's entirely light armor. If the shield is there, it's also light armor. It just takes more time to break, thus increasing the time to kill. If you have a medium pin or higher weapon, go for the horn, which is more than the circle on the top of it. It's actually a long john. Destroy that, it can't shield anymore. If it's up close, break the shield, it'll actually stagger it, stun it, and then shoot the pallet. Gatekeeper, the ranged Jondelier that has plasma star cannons that fire a mobile charge shot indicated by a beam targeting players showing where it's going to land. If it hits you, it does pretty big damage and also ragdolls. Then you have the stationary volley. Does less damage per shot, but fires a lot more of them. And it's got a melee attack. Get too close, bit of a pimp hand from the Jondelier comes in. To kill him, it's going to be similar to a vericator, at least from the pilot and shield aspect, but it does have a lot more heavily armored bits. You maintain the light pin weak spots in the form of the blue bits on the weapons and back of the cockpit, and also the shield and pilot. Those don't change in terms of armor pin required or even damage values. It's the exact same for both of the mech suits in this case. But the horn is now heavy pin, and the majority of the other bits are heavy pin as well. There's medium pin weak spot for the hip joint, which is kind of hard to go for and not really advised due to the HP required. But there is a shining light in all this. The toes, brother. The toes are a weak spot, which is a very common trend, and I'm not sure what's going on in Sweden, but arrowhead, lock in. These things can get one shot by a max charge railgun. Obtruder, drones that fly around in a group size of a dozen plus, shooting their plasma torch at players. It deals low damage and isn't very accurate, but their true power is their ability to fry your retinas. So like my nephew with a flashlight, find your eyeballs and doesn't take the beam away. That's these fellers with that flashing lights constantly, especially during nighttime maps, so be careful of that. You can kill them pretty quickly. In fact, they're snitchbot 9000 adjacent in terms of their weak spots. It's virtually the exact same thing except more condensed, and it actually has less HP. You can also somehow get yeeted into oblivion, or any nearby dropships for illuminate, breaking them instantly even through their shields, landing on war machines or getting sent into them and destroying them instantly, or killing helldivers. For appropriators as a whole, bullet hose is the way to go. You got bullet storm, machine gun sentry, gatling sentry, HMG emplacement, maxi gun. Those things shred. You can go the arc thrower with the guard dog, regular bullet one, even the K9 if you don't care about your teammates' safety, because they'll get blasted. Leviathan stole Arby's tagline. These flying fortresses are equipped with 4 disintegration culverins, beams that can target the same person at the same time, or hit divers, turrets, vehicles, sieve troopers, and I believe civilians, wrecking havoc. They also have 10 plasma bomb dispensers that deal pretty good damage. They can one-shot divers and even destroy grounded dropships with the shield on them, pretty sure. They have 50 demo force, which is a lot. The squid skywhales only roam free if you choose a city mission on difficulty 8 or higher. Otherwise, you can't get them. The reason you can't face Leviathans on more illuminate missions is because they respawn like rabbits. You kill one and 2 more take its place, while the weak spots aren't very weak. It's anti-tank everywhere. The turrets are heavy pin, but those don't deal damage to the main HP when broken, so they're not really worth breaking in the first place. And it takes you 1 close rifle shot to break the very back fin. Past that, it's 2 shots for each other fin. And breaking them is only beneficial if you have a heavy pin weapon to shoot the internals, or you want to just shoot that with a close rifle even more. Or other explosive weapons. Because the fins and most of the other parts have explosive resistance, but they also have a damage overflow cap. Breaking the fin, or getting the fin low and then using another shot on it, won't contribute all the damage to the main HP. All this combined leads to a very long time to kill. Close rifle takes 5 shots if you do everything perfect. Spear is 4. Bash and tank is 4. Strafing run can one-shot it. That's only if you're in the perfect situation to have it run right into you, essentially, or you're right behind it and the strafing run can actually land most of its shots. Guiding barrage can also take it out in one toss, but the same stuff applies. And vehicles get shredded. All that to handle a single Leviathan, for which there will be plenty more. Grounded warp ship spawns voteless overseers and potentially other enemies based on the subfaction you're fighting. These things are engulfed in a big blue shield that has a pretty large amount of HP, but can be destroyed using anything that does damage. Once it's taken out, the ship itself has a ton of HP. You're encouraged heavily to use a grenade that has 20 demo force or higher to blow it up into the blue little hallway. Make sure it stays there, power techs can roll away for instance, and it'll take it out in one foul swoop. You can, however, use a thermite with a shield on. It'll go through most of the time. Breaching hammer to the ramp and ultimatum with a shield on also all work. By the way, the ramp and I believe the little pegs it stands on, those can get hit with thermites, breaching hammer, and destroyed in one foul swoop as well. Melt a Mine also works this way for every ship except for the ones on Repel Invasion Fleet mission. May get fixed in the future, but right now, you can throw 4 or 5 of these things and they won't blow it up. Gazer is a squid sentry found in some Illumina outposts, typically the bigger ones on higher difficulties. You'll always find a few of them defending the glazer spire objective. It will target players with a much weaker version of the harvester's beam that's also very slow. You can just walk one direction and avoid the damage entirely. Exosuits and Bastion Tank Destroyer can't avoid the beam that well, so simply break it, otherwise your whip will get damaged. To kill it, aim for the eyeball with a light pin weapon if you have one of those. If you've got demo force 20 or higher for your guns, AMR, laser cannon for example, hit the base and you kill it in one shot. Overseers can also help you out and destroy it in a single hit. Lightning Spire put around at objectives and encampments that will sit there and charge up, indicated by the purple bars rising. Once fully charged, you can then send out arc energy, dealing a ton of damage, one-shotting players fairly often. You can wear arc resistant armor to avoid that, or just simply destroy it. Light pin weapons can take it out very quickly, and the same thing goes for grenades that have 20 demo force or higher. Lightning Spires typically won't target divers if you're laying down. The same thing applies to Tesla Tower and arc grenades. Arc damage in general has a hard time hitting the prone divers. Cognitive Disruptor. For a year and some change, I didn't know that this Aurora Borealis effect in the sky showed you where this objective is, which scrambles your stratagems, makes it more tedious to type in, but it's easy to destroy. You simply go to location, look for all the blue boxes, there's 4, no matter what, and break them. They require a light pin only. You can take them out pretty fast with various weapons. Once that's done, you're chilling. Don't get too close when you destroy them though, because they do ragdoll. Illuminate Overship, a flying saucer of sorts that is a mission objective on city missions. You can break the shield that has 10,000 HP and then use the cannon on the mission itself to shoot it in the blue circle thing. Any of those ports will one-shot it. Otherwise, it takes you 2 or 3 hits to the main body. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I'll just bring the Bastion tank or a different stratagem and shoot that same weak spot. Can't do it. It has anti-tank level 8, which is the highest in the game for an enemy, and the only weapon that can damage that is Solo Silo. A neat thing you can do is break the shield using weapons that have massive range, like the Talon for instance, while you're waiting for the cannon to get raised and aimed, making it so they're not wasting their own cannon shots to break the shield, taking 2 or 3 hits each, and instead they have a chance to one-shot the port. If you've been wondering where the divers went, they're playing in the Void, located on Rirga Bay, the Void Gateway, and to that you'll see all the new planets, for which Alpha and Gamma are freaking awesome scenery-wise. Also, they're combining sub-factions to make a more hectic experience for anyone that is looking for that kind of thing. It's also where you see the new missions currently. Destroy glazer spires, gazer lasers. These little eyeballs that shoot a laser beam with around a 250 meter range. It's pretty slow to track stuff, but the perfect speed for vehicles, and it deals what I can only assume is more damage than a harvester beam. That is nuts. Toss down a Bastion tank, it can essentially die in one beam if it lands the whole thing. Your mech suits are easily dead in a single beam. It's honestly quite absurd. Now to take them out, simply drop a hell bomb or a hell bomb backpack, activate that, and walk away. To get up to the actual spire though, you can do some parkour. In this case, I toss down a stratagem hell pod and climb it at the right moment next to this ledge. There's also cases in which you have different spire setups, The one with the waterfall has playable high ground on the left side, allowing you to place the hell bomb just high enough to blow up the actual gazer outside of the intended area. Cleanse Foul Shrine. You're here to nuke the nursery for the illuminate, in this case they're tadpoles, where you can hear them making noise before you even call down the hellbomb drill, so to speak, which can be broken, by the way. It includes by your very own sieve troopers. You see the machine gun guys, maybe let them die of natural causes, because they shred that thing, by the by. You defend it for a bit from any illuminates that pull up. This is a lower difficulty, so it's not going to be anywhere near as crazy. Once it's able to be activated, it cannot be broken anymore, as far as I can tell. At least not by your regular bolter pistol with heavy pin, which I would assume would deal pretty heavy damage. And as you're ready to arm it, you'll hear way louder and consistent screaming, which is a very cool touch. After the nuke goes off, you're left with the green pit into the underworld that's bubbling. The remains of the tadpoles that you can actually fall into. And in this case, it didn't have a hitbox or a hurt box, so I can just live down there forever. If you don't have a hover backpack, you can't escape. And there's no grappling hook yet to get your homies out either. Condemn illicit experiments begins by calling in your tactical camcorder. It replaces your support weapon once you grab it, and open your map to see where it landed in the first place. Once you have it, then look for the camera icons. Once you're close enough, they'll be full, and you can simply hold the fire button to record the illuminate schmut. Or I guess there are vile experiments going on. We'll find out what happens later when the Super Earth folks are interpreting the data. You record 5 different locations, and then call in a container. It lands in the same location you first got the camera. Make sure you bring the camera to it, pop off the side, and then insert it, and turn on the computer. From there, pretty self-explanatory. Just know that the radial dial menu is the last step, and you can walk away once that's done. And the whole point of this is to essentially deploy a radar dish. If you see a structural beam on this objective that has maybe stairs beneath it or flat ground, toss a stratagem beneath it so it will land on the beam, and you can have sentries or emplacements all the way on some really insane high ground, especially for mortars. All the enemy anatomy drawings provided by our in-house artist, who's currently stiff-leg deadlifting at least 10 pounds. And that concludes the Illuminate Guide. Hopefully it helps you in some way. Thank you all for watching. The end.